Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are working on a relatively simple project, and maybe it's something that you could use for your own personal truck or workshop. It's just a couple of drawers and a spot to put your chargers and whatnot for your drills. So we're gonna get started. Stay tuned. So the first thing that we're going to get done is break down all of the sheet goods into their final sizes. This allows us to get all the cutting out of the way before we go into doing joinery. So if you notice, I was marking down each of the pieces as I cut them out, because what I do is, you know what, I'll just show you. So if you haven't used Cutlass Optimizer before, just go to cutlassoptimizer.com. We'll put the link in the description. I'm not affiliated with them at all, but their program's just awesome for figuring out sheet goods and how to cut them out with the most efficient way. And what the nice thing is with our plans that we build and use for all of our projects, you can actually just cut all your pieces first and then do all your joinery. I don't know what it is about using the table saw, but it's just so satisfying for me to just cut it through. I feel like I'm getting the job done instantaneously until I get to the finishing, and at that point I get sad. Alrighty, so we got that all cut up. So we're going to swap out to the dado blade and start cutting our joinery, because this entire project is cut with the exact same settings on the saw. So when you're designing something, keep that in mind, because it makes it way easier to do the project instead of setting it up every single time you do a joint. For those of you that are curious about saw stops and you haven't used one or seen one before, when it comes to changing the brake, super easy. You don't need any tools. It's literally 3 seconds, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So inside, there's that little tab, and all you got to do is reach down, give it a quarter turn, and a pin pops out. You grab the brake, do a little wiggle, that one's out. Now let's go grab the dado brake. Here it is right here. You see the difference of them. It's pretty substantial. This one's just heavier to catch a dado blade. Installation's exactly the same thing, but in reverse. Now that's on there, the brake's all on. What you do have to see is this little adjustment here. That is for adjusting the distance between the brake and your blade. So now I'll go put my dado blade on, and then I'll show you how to adjust that. So now it's on there. See that touches the brake, that's why I can't turn it. You loosen this guy off. Now with this blade, it might be different with your blade, but I just go till it stops, backs out till it stops. And you check your distance here. On the end of the supplied thing, there's a little gauge section right there. If you have feeler gauges, you can use that there. But let's see if I can show you. There's a little mark here. Little mark down in there that shows you exactly where to place the spacer. And if you're like me, you just drop your spacer inside your saw. You just put it in there, and just make sure that the teeth there Just barely touch it. Then once you got that set, just give this a spin by hand. Make sure you don't feel it touch that brake at any one point, because if it does touch it, then you'll set your brake off and have to go spend a bunch of money, which isn't that bad. It's about $120 Canadian. So it's not the end of the world if it happens. The blade's probably more money than the brake. Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't wreck the saw if it goes off. And sure, it might be a little bit of price, cost you a couple $100 if you set it off. But how often do you plan on touching the saw blade? Because if that's an issue for you, I highly recommend a different hobby besides woodworking. Now that we got the dado stack all switched out, it's time to start cutting some joinery. I like to do locking rabbet joints for my drawers and a lot of my projects. I find it's just really quick to do, and you're really not going to get anything stronger unless you start getting into dovetails and box joints, but that's a lot harder to accomplish sometimes, especially at a price point. So here's a nice time lapse for you just to watch me go through the routine of cutting all the joinery and all the pieces. I check the plans and make sure that I get all the pieces cut exactly the way I want them. That way assembly goes nice and smooth. So my camera died, so I didn't get any of the rotoring stuff, but this is what we did. So I just took the rotor. I rotored these 3 lines into here for some shelves. Did the same thing. These 2 pieces here. What we're working on right now is this. So all we're doing is cutting out all these pieces and marking the holes, drilling the holes out. That's the step we're doing next, is just gonna get these holes drilled out. Then we're on to sanding and painting. So we're just going to use a hole saw to drill these holes out. As you can see, it's already marked out if you look past my elbow there. And what this does is exactly what I said it does. It cuts the hole. Look at it spin. It's doing its job real good. And I'll push a little bit too hard here in a second, and boom, I go through. Here's the drum sander I got, just going to town, getting the first layer of sanding done. This is nice 80 grit, gets stuff nice and flat. So we're going on to dry assembly, and as you can see, those locking joints just clipped it all together real quick. It's nice and simple, holds it all together square, and I find it saves a lot of time on stuff where seeing the joinery on the corners doesn't matter too much, so, or somewhere places where it's hidden. Now that we're taking it apart, we'll go on to the next step, which is gluing. I like gluing. Look how satisfying that is. Just going on there like. Nice cinematic shot. Sometimes I play around the camera settings just to see what happens. And this one turned out pretty good. It's like looking through a city skyline, but not. Here's me just using the pin nailer just to quickly go through and hold it together. Like I said, those locking joints hold everything nice and square generally, so it's not a problem. Once again, the locking joints for my drawers, because they are super strong and they go together just quick and nice, and you don't have to worry about it. As long as all your pieces are cut square, it's generally a square, so you don't have to figure it out later. Some more pin nail action. Holding it all together for the glue to dry. These are probably not needed at this stage, but I just like it instead of using clamps if I don't have to. Now we'll just mark out all the drawers for the drawer pulls on here. Drill them out with the drill press. Now this is looks pretty crude, but we're just roughly getting all the spots we need out, and we'll clean it up with the router later. probably should have clamped that, but I'll let you guys yell at me in the comment section over that one. Once again, marking out the other drawers. That was taken after the drill press, but we inserted it in here because it just looks better to keep the same angle. So if you don't have a paint booth, like I don't, what the solution I like using is just put some poly out. Now this project, I did get some paint on the floor because I didn't quite make my poly big enough, but it's okay. It's a workshop, and one of these days I will eventually have a paint booth. Hopefully that's sooner than later, because this is not always ideal. But look at that. Oh, so satisfying. Here we're just spraying in as fast as I can. No, I'm just kidding. That's time lapse. I'm not that fast. I'm a lot slower than that, actually. For you painters out there, you'll see that I just totally botched my air pressure. You saw that tail on that first spray, but it turned out good. There was no runs or drips, so I'm happy with that. And here's what it looks like after you slid all the drawers back in, after everything was dry. And obviously we got some fingerprints and stuff on there. That dust was not in the finish. It was just on the finish from sitting for several days. But it looks really nice and finished. This would be a nice happy home for some rough tools and some rough guys on the oil field. Thanks for watching.